Joining us now, House Oversight and Reform Committee member, Congressman Khanna. Ro, there's a lot of potentially bombshell things we're learning about. But if what Michael Cohen is leading with tomorrow, and if what he's asked about is all about the president being a cheating businessman, a misogynist, a racist, all of that sounds very politically motivated, none of which will help the American people. For you, what is the goal tomorrow? What do you hope to learn from Michael Cohen?
Well, it's not going to be a gotcha hearing. It's going to be factual. Mr. Cohen should just testify about what he knows, whether there was criminal conduct by the president.
Oversight and Reform Committee is preparing for their chance to question the president's fixer and former personal attorney.
A knowledgeable source tells NBC News that there's a news-making list of items that Cohen is going to talk about, from alleged lies, cheating, and racism to financial statements to the president's involvement in hush money payoffs, even alleged evidence of criminal conduct since becoming president.
Joining us now, House Oversight and Reform Committee member, Congressman Khanna. There's a lot of potentially bombshell things we're learning about. But if what Michael Cohen is leading with tomorrow, and if what he's asked about is all about the president being a cheating businessman, a misogynist, a racist, all of that sounds very politically motivated, none of which will help the American people. For you, what is the goal tomorrow? What do you hope to learn from Michael Cohen?
Well, it's not going to be a gotcha hearing. It's going to be factual. Mr. Cohen should just testify about what he knows, whether there was criminal conduct by the president, whether the president directed him to pay Ms. Daniels in violation of campaign finance laws, whether he was coached by the White House to give false testimony to Congress. So I think on the Democratic side, you're not going to see some effort to score political points. It's the first time the American people are going to get to hear from Mr. Cohen, and he should just tell the facts and then let the American people make the judgment.
Congressman, we've heard that coordination with Russia, or at least the Mueller investigation into it, is conspicuously absent from the list. Do you know why?
Well, there is a separate hearing with the Intelligence Committee that Adam Schiff is going to lead, where some of those questions may come up. What we don't want to do in any way is interfere with Mueller's investigation, and we don't want to ask Mr. Cohen something that would compromise in any way the investigation. But broadly, there will be questions about possible violations of the law, and that may touch on some aspects of Russia as long as it doesn't interfere with Mr. Mueller's investigation.
So you mentioned that other hearing with the Intel Committee. Devin Nunes, the ranking member in that committee, the guy who used to be the chair, is calling for that appearance to be open, which is, you know, a lot of Americans will say, hey, that's great. That's a push for transparency.
Not really.
Well, you know, the hearing tomorrow with the Oversight Committee is going to be open. Michael Cohen is going to talk about everything he knows, everything that happened, and the intelligence one can't be open. I mean, we can't have Michael Cohen talking about sensitive information about the United States relationship with Russia or what Mueller is doing. I don't think Americans would want that kind of information to be public.
So to that point, I want to be sure we're not taking, or I want to ask you, Devin Nunes, and his statement at face. Why would Devin Nunes, of all people, be saying, no, let's not have this be closed, let's open it up?
Well, because Devin Nunes knows then that would be a way to kill the hearing. I mean, he's not acting in good faith. Let's be very clear. Look, Michael Cohen is someone who is afraid. He has been intimidated by the president. He's going to have to come in front of a committee where the Republicans are going to score points. Most of the Democrats are just going to say to him, look, this is the chance to redeem yourself. We know you made mistakes in the past. Come clean. Just tell the truth. Level with the American people. Say what happened. And we should understand the enormous pressure he's under. I mean, he's got the president of the United States calling his father-in-law a criminal, threatening his family.
So you feel sympathetic for Michael Cohen?
I feel that he shouldn't be intimidated. I think what we need to do at this committee is just let him tell the truth. I do think he has things that he needs to share with us. You know, the New York prosecutors, for example, said that he wasn't fully cooperative and didn't disclose all that happened in terms of criminal activity. My hope is he may not have disclosed it with the prosecutors. He should disclose it with the American people. My instinct is Americans are a very forgiving people, but what they want is honesty and transparency. I think if Mr. Cohen comes and tells the truth and comes clean, I think that's in his interest, and that would be good for the healing of this country.
Congressman, later today, the House is going to vote on nullifying the president's national emergency over the southern border. 200 co-sponsors on this legislation. I imagine it'll pass the House easily. What do you see happening with this?
Well, not only is it going to pass the House, it's going to pass the House with some Republicans. And here's the point. The Secretary of Defense and the Defense Department so far have not given an enumerated list of what money they would transfer to build a wall. And that's because they understand the statute. It's against the law for the military to enforce domestic law. It's against the law for the military to take money from projects that were designed for military construction for any use other than military construction. So anyone who's read the law understands what the president is asking is unconstitutional. We're going to pass it in the House. The Senate, I'm confident, will pass it. It will pass with some Republican votes. And then the question is whether the president will pause or whether the president will veto the resolution.
And then the interesting thing about the Senate is we now have 3 senators, Republican senators, who are saying they would support this, largely because Nancy Pelosi warned last week that, boy, this emergency powers thing is neat. We're going to use it for climate change, and we're going to use it for gun control, and that seems to have spooked a lot of Republicans who say they don't want to give a president this kind of free rein.
How can Republicans talk about things being unconstitutional after this if they stand by and let this happen?
Well, and Allie, in candor, you know, I'm very progressive and I care very deeply about climate change. But if we had a Democratic president who tried to use this kind of authority, I would oppose it. I mean, it's blatantly unconstitutional what this president is doing. And anyone who cares about the Constitution should oppose it. And you know who's opposing it is actually the military. We have an irony in this country where the Defense Department is passively resisting the president and cares more about the Constitution than our president does. I never thought that would happen, that generals actually care more than the civilian elected president about our Constitution.
Congressman, good to see you as always. Thank you. Congressman Khanna,
Thank you.
A Democrat of California.
Appreciate it.